online, please just made a comment. Where are you? Are you in Europe? Are you in Africa? Are you in Asia? Just give us a sense of where you are joining us from. Coucou Aramide.
Ok, coucou.
So, ça a l'air de marcher. So the big question has been, what language are we going to conduct this live? But we're going to start in English first.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Just to give a chance for everyone. We're going to let people kind of join in. And what's the weather right now in Lagos? I know you are in Lagos right now.
Oh, yes, I am in Lagos. It's 8 p.m. and it is hot.
It's hot.
Yes,
all
it's
right.
hot.
So
Yes.
the rainy season over?
Yes, it should be over officially to start entering the dry season, but I think we are in the transition. Let's say we are in the transition.
You're in transition.
Yes.
All right. So here it's 2 p.m. in New York. Actually, it's been quite warm. Comment on appelle ça? L'été indien? That's how you say that? The Indian season in French?
Yes.
So it's been warm, but I think that the cold temperatures are coming back next week. So, but anyway, since everyone is joining, hello everyone. My name is Yasmina F. Edwards. I have here Francoise, who's here from FAA Design Studio from Lagos.
Yes.
And the title today is Paris to Lagos, a French success story in Nigeria.
Oh là là.
Tu vois, c'est les grands mots. And I put it also in French, de Paris à Lagos, qu'est-ce que j'ai dit? Le succès d'une architecte en Afrique. So, hello. Thank you all for joining us, for joining Breaking New Ground, our third episode. And I'm excited and very honored to have my friend, Francoise, who basically, you've never done a live before. This is your first live.
Yeah. I must say I am a bit, how to say that? I'm a bit social media shy or savage. I don't know.
Well, no, you're just you're a busy businesswoman doing things and you just don't have the time. But anyway, since you're here, I want you to start by introducing yourself. One thing I'm going to say it again. I left France and moved to America. You left France and moved to Nigeria. And actually, you studied in France, worked in New York, went back to France and moved to Nigeria. And I feel that this is gangster. Because you live in Lagos. But let's start from the beginning. Where were you born?
Okay. Yeah, I was born in France, in the suburb of Paris. Two Nigerian parents. I mean, everything.
So, can I interrupt you for 2 seconds? I'm also of a Nigerian descent. I mean, I'm split, Nigerian and Benin. But all my Nigerian side moved to America. Why did your Nigerian parents move to France? And were they speaking French at the time?
Not at all. So the truth is, I think it was more a kind of little adventure trip for them at that time. And my mother wanted to learn French. And so they applied for Canada, they applied for France, they got France first. So they went to France. And really the idea was just to travel for 1 year and then maybe go back to Nigeria, But there was a series of coups d'etats happening precisely during their stay in France. And basically all the family were just recommending them, please stay a bit longer, stay a bit longer, stay a bit longer. At the end, kids arrived and then, you make your life and then that longer is actually until now.
Wow.
Yes.
So basically it was just an adventure trip and you became basically a permanent stay.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So you were born in a suburb of Paris, of Nigerian parents who had to learn French. Can you give us a sense, a little bit of how it was to grow up in France, parents from Africa, from an English-speaking African country?
Alors, honestly, you know, little they used to speak Yoruba to me, actually. So because two of them are Yoruba, so they used to speak Yoruba to me until I was 2 and I started school, and they were afraid I would mix up the languages. Then they started switching to French, with the French that was not even that good at their end. You know, they were studying, you know, they went to La Sorbonne, they were studying French, they were doing Alliance Française classes and all those things, but, you know, it was still not there. But, you know, they were forcing themselves to speak French. And at the end, the truth is, the brain of a child is actually very, I want to say, very sophisticated, and it actually knows which language to pick according to the situations. And the truth is, there was actually no issue. They should have continued what they started, and which would have put me in a better situation today to speak Yoruba. So today I understand it well, but to speak it, it's a very slow process.
Well, like any languages, is practice. So,
Yes.
but so you spoke, so they were speaking Yoruba to you, as many Yoruba parents, some of them, it's important for their kids to speak the Yoruba. You went to school, obviously you did super well because you got to become an architect. And why did you want to become an architect?
You know, initially I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to be a neurologist because I was just fascinated in what's going on in people's brain, you know? So it's just like...
You still are.
So, you know, so that was my starting point, but I was drawing a lot. I actually went to the med school. I didn't pass the exam the first year because, you know, there is a kind of funny exam where they just give you maths and physics, you know, just to do an absurd selection. And then I felt, you know what, maybe this is not the direction I want to take because I was kind of missing drawing. And so I looked at architecture, and I feel I'm not far from this idea of trying to see, to have a kind of a landscape of the brain, of what's going on in the brain, because actually this is what a city translates. A city translates actually the mindset of society. If you look at around you, it tells you, you kind of understand what is going on. When you look at Lagos, you kind of understand that, yes, there are too many forces pulling in all the directions, and that is why we can't get anything that formalized in a very clear way. So I feel I'm still in that area. And you know, when you design a private house, it's the same thing. You know, you really have to understand the need of the client. Sometimes the words are used, but they do not really reflect the need. So it's like, it's try to see what is behind the words. And so you start to try to enter the mind to try to decipher the real message.
So in essence, you gave up the idea of becoming a neurologist, but a lot of what you could have got by becoming a neurologist, you kind of transfer it when you became an architect.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yes. It's totally this. It's it is this externalization of what is inside, and that is what architecture is actually.
So I don't know many architects who look like you, at least in France. You know, we both were born and raised in France. So what is the process of becoming an architect? Do you go to an architecture school? How was your experience learning architecture when you were in France?
Yes, you go to an architectural school, and because the system in France is, I want to say, rather well done, the School of Architectures are public. So it's not really like saying, oh, you want to integrate Harvard, which is a very good school, or, you know, and have to, it's not like a huge investment. There is a selection, definitely. They will study for your marks and everything. But the truth is, the selection actually is made after the first year. After the first year, or the first 2 years, a lot of people go away. And I think the selection kind of happens at that moment. So the first 2 years is more, they let enter more or less, I mean, at that time, people who seem to have the competence on paper. And then After that, there is the real test in life with the first 2 years. If you pass the first 2 years, technically, you're good for others.
Yeah, that's the beauty of France. There's schools, good schools are affordable and accessible as long as you make a grade. So
exactly.
you graduated from the, can you please remind me the name of the school? And then I want to go to when you moved to New York.
Okay, I graduated in 2004, École d'architecture de Marne-la-Vallée, de la ville et des territoires de Marne-la-Vallée.
Okay, de Marne-la-Vallée. Okay.
Yes, yes. It used to be a school in Paris, but because actually their philosophy was really around the new cities, you know, how you create new urbanities, they wanted to basically settle the school in a location that is considered also as a new city. So they wanted to be within the space that they want to think about. Yes.
So tell me if I'm wrong. Marne-la-Vallée is where, comment ça s'appelle? Walt Disney
yes,
is?
Euro Disney is exactly, and it's exactly those new cities. It was basically all those areas that were fields, and they've been planned, you know, to host different types of program, you know, like. Yes.
Okay. So you graduated, obviously you were an excellent student because that's why you were able to get in and to graduate. And then you moved to New York. And when did you move? What year did you move to New York?
Actually, just after my graduation.
And why? Why did you move? Why did you move to New York?
I had this idea. So architecture in France is very moralistic. There is this duty of the architect. I mean, it felt very heavy to educate, you know, to do the right thing. You know, there was something very moralistic and very heavy that when I was looking at magazines of architectures, of firms coming from New York, that were really more formal. They were really looking, it was more plastic. You know, they were more formal research. I felt that, in New York, I would have all the freedom of the world to experiment all the things I want to experiment, and that were not looked at very well in my school, where once from the moment where you were doing things that the shape were too extravagant, they felt that you were going out of the subject. You know, it's like, yes, they felt, you're not answering the question anymore. And so that's why I went to New York. I felt it was the land of freedom for design and shapes, and yeah.
And was it? Because you spent 4 years in New York. Was it the land of freedom and the land of design?
But then, you know, then you realize that a lot of those beautiful projects that actually a lot of them were not built, you know, they remained on paper, and there was a reason for that. Is that the truth is you always have to face the reality at the end. You also have to face the materiality also. And I was amazed to see that because at that period there was this Japanese architect Sejima who used to do architectural walls that were 2 cm thick, and I was thinking, in New York it's obvious everybody will be doing that, and so I was surprised to see walls that were almost 10 cm. I was surprised to see that all those fancy shapes were just made out of it's just with the hand of the craftsman that will be cutting the boards in a very funny shape, and then you plaster, and then you paint, and then it looks like something else. But the truth is, it was exactly the same tool I was running away from, or material I was running away from in France.
What years were you in New York?
From 2004 to 2008.
All right. Another question that I want to, so for those who just join us, because many people are joining us, this is Francoise Aramide, that's actually how I like to call you, who's joining us from Lagos, and who moved from Paris to New York and to Lagos. And my name is Yasmina Edwards. I'm based in New York. Welcome to Breaking New Ground show. One of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, is also I would like to understand your experience as working in New York as a French of African descent, compared to how it was when you were working in France. And then we're going to go into Lagos, which is a different market. How was your experience?
You know, New York, I always like to associate it as Euro Disney for adults. You know, it's a place where, seriously, in New York, you can just, you feel guilty to sleep in New York. So basically, we were working hard and
I
partying
never heard
hard,
that, but that is so true.
and so
You
the
feel
experience was
guilty to sleep
amazing.
in New York.
Yes, yes, really, 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 like you really don't feel good. And so the experience was amazing because the truth is, I managed to work within the offices that were exploring the things I wanted to experiment. So it was a full pleasure, really. I totally enjoyed it, and it actually gave me a certain level of freedom also to design, which was actually what I was looking for. I thought it would go further, but well, again, because you have to face realities, you have to face materialities and things like this. But the truth is, when I left New York, I really had a full kit of freedom,
Okay.
you know, to design.
Okay.
And so I kind of found what I was looking for. And then it is it is always the thing that I kept at the back of my mind when I came to Nigeria, because really the idea of coming to Nigeria was really how can we do it differently? You know, how can we do it in a way that really suits who we are, our climatic context, our cultural context, you know, even, and then to adjust it also to the craftsmanship that is available. It's like, how do we do it our own way? Does it have to look like a block of flat, I don't know, coming from Miami in Lagos? Does it have to look like this? And yeah.
So, okay, this is very interesting because very few people have the luxury, and I call that a luxury, to work in different countries and to absorb the I don't know how to say, from a creative, because right now you really highlight the freedom of creativity, and also that New York provided you, but that also provided you that freedom also help you to push the boundaries or to think differently.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that's a bit
Yes.
how I'm reading what you just said. Any
Exactly.
reason why? Because I know so many creative who, when they come to New York, you know, like you said, the guilt of sleeping because there's so much to do. You just like, you know, I need to use my time. But you could have stayed. You
Ah.
decided to go back to France and then to go to Nigeria. Why?
So it wasn't really. I just knew I was tired of New York. I was tired of it. I was tired of the game. I was tired to, you know, after a few years, I was looking at some of my friends in France. They were starting to buy apartments, you know, things like this. And
Mm.
you feel, and you look at yourself, what do you have? You realize that you actually have nothing, because, to be honest, we were not really well paid in offices, in the companies. Usually the company name is enough to pay you, you know, so we really have like a modest salary, but it was enough to live, but not more. It was impossible to make savings. And I just felt, is it really a life I want? Because the truth is, it would have been like this for the next 10 to 12 to 20. Because when I looked at the people around me, the people who were in their 40s at that time, they were still doing the same thing I was doing. And I felt, okay, this is the thing that will happen to me too if I stay, because it's the pattern of the city. It's unfortunately.
So are you saying that, remind me the year that you were in New York?
2004, 2008.
Okay, it was a different world. So it never occurred to you that you can open your own studio, or at that
In New
time
York,
it was impossible. Your studio
I
design.
it didn't come to my mind at all. Also because you come with French papers in New York, you're still an immigrant, you know, and
Oh,
to regularize regularly your situation,
that's
I
a good.
spent a lot of money in visa. And I was thinking,
Oh, I
in
see.
all fairness, my parents have already done the whole struggle in France. Do I really need to start the whole thing here, and to gain what? So I felt that I took all I could take for during those 4 years. And I felt, okay, let me capitalize on the other things I have. So I left New York, and really the idea was to let me go back to France and let me settle and think what would be my next plan. I knew, after coming back from New York, where life is flamboyant, and even it was the economical crisis, things were still going in all the direction, and you arrive in France, and, the pace is slower, everything is slower. I understood I would not be able to stay in France, I understood. And I was actually targeting Brazil. Do not ask me why. I felt like Brazil would have been the next land of opportunity for me. And yeah, and so this is how.
So you came back to France. You left New York after 4 years. Yes, France may have looked like a countryside because the energy is definitely not the same. Yes. Then you moved to Lagos. Mm-hmm. So I understand that you wanted to go to Brazil. You ended up in Lagos, and why Lagos? And how has been the transition? Not where you are now, because where you are now, it's important to understand how you started. So how was the transition?
The transition wasn't so. I went on my own. That in 2010, actually, to Lagos. There was the first Lagos photo, so it was actually one of the reasons why I did the trip. And this is where I actually kind of fell in love with the idea of coming to Lagos at least a few years and see what can be done.
Why? Can you tell me why you fell in love?
The energy.
Lagos for me is like New York. You hate it or you love it.
The energy, exactly. I was in Lagos, and I felt. I would often say, instead of saying Lagos, I would say New York. I was feeling the same level of energy.
Would you say, that's my favorite thing to say, I call Lagos New York on steroid?
Yes, it is, even though the output
wow.
is steroids for the effort, but not necessarily for the end result, not necessarily for the output.
I totally get what you say. So you came to Lagos for these photos show. You fell in love with Lagos, and then what?
And then I came a few times trying to introduce myself to different companies, but it just didn't work. I think people had difficulties to compute why this girl coming from speaking with this funny accent, what does she want to do? Like, she wants to really work? No, it was just absurd. It was surreal for people. So then
because they're trying to come to America or go to London, and then just like what?
I actually don't understand why they couldn't understand, but they just couldn't. So
people are joining us, and I really want for people to understand why this conversation is important, and why I love you so much, and I respect what you've done. You chose to move. I said from New York, you went to France, you studied in France, you were born and raised in France, and you chose to move to Nigeria and set up your business. And I say it's gangster. Why? I call it gangster because Lagos is not any other city in Africa. It's a city in its own category, and you have to go there, live there to understand that it's not an easy place to run a business when you're an immigrant, even though that your ancestors are buried there, your parents were born there. So tell us.
So the truth is, again, I needed a soft landing, and I just got a phone call from like headhunters, and one day I was in France, and they were looking for an architect in Nigeria, and I went to the interview. They did not disclose the company. I later discovered it was Total, and this is how 2 months after I moved to Nigeria, and I was working with Total, doing architecture in-house for their CSR projects. And I did that for a year. It was really a soft landing because really once you arrive, and then I understood what people couldn't understand. Because I just arrived like a flower and just say, I want to work. But once you say, oh, I work with Total, already people look at you differently, and then they are kind of ready to listen to you. So so basically I used that year to more or less start to understand the system. But because I wasn't in a real architectural firm, things were a bit tweaked. So I really felt that it would be actually more advantageous to really join a real architectural firm and understand really how they function. So which I did after that. So I went to Design Group, one of the oldest architectural firms in Nigeria. They are based in Lagos. And I spent with them, I think, 3 years. And
How many years you spent?
3 years.
3 years.
And
Okay.
this is where I really understood how it works here, because no one should assume that in Lagos it works like anywhere in the world. And I understood I shouldn't make this assumption. And it was perfect. It was a perfect way to really understand the dynamic in the industry. And yes.
So can you give us three things or two that you need to understand about Lagos when you want to do business in Lagos? When you're a foreigner, because
when you're
again,
a foreigner,
you even though that your name is Aramide Akinosho, Yoruba, 100% Yoruba, you're a foreigner, you're an immigrant, you were not born in Nigeria.
Alors, first, I think it always gives a positive edge. I've noticed that it is not necessarily the case when you come from another African country to have lived abroad, were born abroad and come. You're not necessarily welcome positively. Honestly, the people who would meet me and when I would tell them my story, oh, I left France, I came here, they are all actually positively impressed. They are all, I find them welcoming to some extent. You know, there is an appreciation also, respect or appreciation of the fact that, you know, there is a desire to be here
and to help build.
Exactly. So I think it has. So that is the first thing. So I think you are always welcome up to some limit. When I say up to some limit, because there is always a moment where that foreignness becomes the excuse or the support to say, oh, but you don't understand how it's done here. That's why we want to insist and do it our way, which is the wrong way most of the time. So, you know, so sometimes, you know, but it's about playing with all the different faces. But
so I know we're speaking in English, and I'm not sure how many people, unless people want to leave comments about who speak French, E for English, F for French. What you're saying right now is super important, because you made the choice to move to Nigeria because this is a different time, 2022. Now people, the diaspora, everybody wants to go back home or trying to do business in Africa. Africa was not that sexy back then, you know. This is a conversation that both of us have been having for so long. Now I know you open your own design studio. How has it been when you made the decision to leave the design studio? I forgot the name, the one that you work with, and open your own.
Alors, what is very important is to know yourself. And I know I am not a corporate person. So that's why leaving Total at that time was not difficult at all. There is too much politics that I'm not very good at. And I felt, so it was the same thing also in the company, but in that design company, but obviously at a lower scale, because it is the size, you know, obviously reduces the scale of the political game. But you know, you feel I just know that I want to be alone. I just know I just knew that I needed to initiate and try as much as possible to do things at my pace. And the truth is, the context Nigeria forces you to do things at the pace of Nigeria, and which is not necessarily the most ideal for me. You know, I would say in terms of design, I'm a very slow processor. And you can't afford to be slow here. You can't afford. So you need to be interacting quick with people. There is this general impatience that you can't say, I will get back to you in 3 months with my design. No, it doesn't work. So And so that's the thing that I had to juggle with, but I was already working for myself actually in France, you know, when I came back from New York, because it was a period, it was that economical crisis, and it was easier to set up your company at that time rather than look for a job. Which I did. It felt natural for me to go back to that. I knew I just put it aside for a short period. I knew I needed an immersion phase in Nigeria, so by working with other people. And then it just came naturally that it was time to,
So
yes.
what's important for the audience to know, I know we're having this conversation about your move from New York to France, from France to Nigeria, that today you're doing big things. So can you in a few words share with your audience the 2, 3, especially the last project that you did and where you receive a lot of attention in Lagos? Can you share that with the audience?
Yes, so this last project was actually like, it was a real challenge project. It was a real challenge. So this is Keys, so it's a restaurant in Lekki, and the reason why it was particularly challenging is because it was a design and build project. And so we've been involved in some design and build between bracket for internal spaces, but this one was the entire building, which is on 2 levels, and plus all the internal spaces. So we are talking about 1,200 square meters. And the challenge was to wear the two hats. You know, you design something, so you have big expectation, big dreams. And then there is the construction phase where you realize that what you design is not that it's impossible, it is just out of budget. And the budget is the real responsibility that the designer has also towards the client. Like, it's good to sell an image, but it's also good to be able to stick to the budget that was initially approved. The truth is, it's very difficult in an economy that is very fluctuating, which is our case, meaning from the time you start the project and the time you finish, the value is not the same. The value of the money is not the same at all.
You're talking, just for people to understand, you're talking about the Naira, who has been basically falling apart. The currency has been falling apart.
Exactly. And so, you know, so those were the difficult things to handle, you know, that money management aspect in respect of the client expectations and the economy. Another one is the management also of the workmanship, because really it's something that is very, very difficult to handle here because the skills are not necessarily very high. How to say that, the work ethics also not necessarily present. And all these are consequences of the structural environment. It is really the structure of the environment that forces people, you know, to start behaving a certain way. And but the truth is, you have to compose with all the individual of this society to create it. So yes, it was not easy, but it was really challenging really at all the levels. But the result at the end, we are very happy with the result.
Yeah, I know that you did a great job. And if you want to follow FAA Studio Design, you can see her work on Instagram for those who don't follow her. And plus, one thing that we need to add to this conversation, Aramide, you are a woman. And I'm not sure, I mean, I know Nigeria, it's, you know, it's, I mean, women are running businesses in Nigeria, that's a fact, but it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, the architecture world, is it a men business? What type of client do you have? Are they, even if it's a couple, the man is always making the decision? What's the dynamic?
Okay. Alors, there are different aspects to it. So indeed, so there is a relationship with the client. And I want to say, until now, being a woman has never really disturbed me. There will be, you always have some, how to say that, some preconceived idea, you know, but it's very easy to make them disappear from the moment you make it clear that you know what you're talking about. But I want to say that most of the time there is a bigger trust in me because I am a woman, because they know that, you know, they actually know, they would even admit it, and they know, they admit it, they say, okay, when a woman does the job of a man, we can be sure that she can do it better than him. So, you know,
Oh
there is this
my
thing,
God.
but, you know, so I think on the client side, I would like to say it has never been a huge challenge. Now, if you talk about relationship between clients and, you know, when it is a couple, it really varies. So I have some projects that are family houses where I've never seen the wife. I have some projects where there is no decision made without the wife. So, you know, there are different types of structure in terms of relationships, I want to say.
So this idea, well, now you're in Lagos, you know, Nigeria is a big, big country. I forgot, more than 200 million. I mean, it's one of the most populated country in Africa, definitely in one of the third or fourth country the most populated in the world. We cannot be saying that, you know, women in business are not respected automatically. So you should be saying that actually for you it's been a plus. Anything that you want to, in terms of, you did business in France, which I call Europe. You practice in France, you practice in America, you are practicing in Nigeria, which is in Africa. Can you give me two common threads and things that are completely different from a cultural point of view, whether in your business or just in your daily life? Because I think that both are connected. You lived in those countries. Can we say, because, you know, I have the same background as you, I'm in between those three continents. Would you say, in terms of business, one thing that I noticed, Americans are straightforward. They will tell you things to your face. French people, you know, you have to put some, you know, decorum around it. Tu vois, c'est toujours, on est toujours avec les mots. Nigeria, they're brutal.
Yes, totally.
Brutal.
No filter, no gloves.
Exactly. There's no gloves. But that is so funny. I don't know if you agree. I mean, you know, I have family, you know, some member of my family in Nigeria. In terms of business, they can be brutal. But when you start having this relationship of the elder and the younger one on the social level, it's a bit different. So I don't know if this is something that you experience.
Ah, yes. So yeah, there is always this, but the truth is, I kind of like also to keep a distance, because then it becomes too familiar. Precisely because you are the young one and you are the young lady, you can be treated like the daughter or the sister, you know? And so, and I think it's just the way you position yourself. And I think this is where the French accent is helping me also a lot, is because they always have the feeling that there is always the vibe of a stranger. So
like you don't understand you don't understand the
you know,
rules.
there is always a little bit, so you can always play on the two. And I must say, and I myself, I also take advantage of this very well.
Don't share your secret on the live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And do you think, so I don't know if there's an easier way, but among the three countries, what country was easier for you? Obviously, everything is very relative, but where do you feel that was a bit easier for you?
Bon, I would say it is where I am right now. It's Nigeria, but for many things. Also on the relation level, uh, I I was always reminded that I was a woman and black in France and in New York, and then the end result would always be different. You know,
what is the end result? You said they're different.
yeah, there was always this amazement in France. Oh, you're an architect and you studied all those years, you made it. You know, there was this, oh, like you must be supernatural to be able to do this, you know, and it's kind of weird because look, I went to the same school as everybody, I studied the same thing as everybody. So yeah,
Well,
I mean,
we're
yeah.
not, Aramide, we're not going to get into this conversation. It's
No,
not
no, no,
weird, but it's not easy
but
for a black girl, even if she's French in France, to accomplish what you did. Maybe that's why you're getting this supernatural reaction.
Yes, maybe, but honestly, I don't know. I didn't feel like I was fighting every day. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. That
Yes,
is
you
fair
know, but
enough.
yes. But so this is this, and in New York, yeah, you know, you're a black woman in New York because there is always this tension. There is always this racial tension in New York that I wasn't expecting. I was actually shocked to. And so, and as soon as you start talking and they hear an accent, oh, you're not Black American, and so they relax, you know. And then the interactions were always a little bit. And you know what? In Nigeria, I never ask myself if I am Black, if I am a woman. The only thing I ask myself is, can I do it? Can I do it? Yes or no? That's all. And And also, those two cities, those three cities, amongst the three, Paris, let's say, is overbuilt. France is a limited land mass. You know, New York, same thing. The few plots that are left is to call the superstar architect from, you know, you do not know where, from Brazil, who will come and do a mini tower for. So the truth is, I have more opportunities here, technically, because there is a lot of things to do. There is a lot. There is so much to be done. There is, I want to say, free space. There is land. There is land. It's just that it's not well managed, but there is land, and there are needs. There are needs, and so.
So obviously you going back to Africa, there's needs, there's opportunities, you know,
Yeah.
that's part of my discourse every single day and everything that I try to do. What do you think, you in Lagos, your studio is doing well. I know you're not fighting you're not, my understanding is your fight is not to get client. Your fight and the fight of a lot of us who are actually entrepreneurs is to get talent
Yes.
so that you can grow. But can you tell us, you know, because you're on the trenches every single day. You remember we spoke a few days ago, I don't know what I told you, and you just told me, you said, Yasmina, you guys, you live abroad. You romanticize Africa. I live here every day. It's not easy. I see the reality. What can be improved? What can be easier for you on a daily basis?
You're
I'm sure the
asking me that.
list is long, but you need to pick three. You need to
I
pick
know,
three things.
it's endless. It's endless. Just to function. Let's just at an individual scale, just to function, not just to have to struggle, just to have power, to be running, just basic computers and things like just this. May it will go a long way if there was no need to think about that. Just
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
You know,
eh,
so
yeah. Yeah, and I have to say to the audience, we're talking about Lagos, Nigeria. Africa is a continent. There's a lot of countries in Africa. And yeah, sadly, being such a powerful country, just having power, electricity is a daily challenge.
yeah.
Anything else that you feel will be helpful in terms of talent? What would you say is missing?
The truth is everything is linked, you know. I think once there is the truth is quality of life is just missing at all the level. Once you bring that in, and it also works on different layers, you will understand that people will be able to give more of them. The truth is, uh, there are no population that are smarter than others. But the truth is, when 50% of your energy is wasted in trying to reach your workplace, by the time you arrived, sorry, how much can you give of yourself?
Yeah.
So it's really at all the level, in terms of quality of life, and it's not something that can be done one by one. I think it's a huge scale issue, and obviously, yes. So then you then we will connect with the issue of education. We will connect with the issue of health. We will connect with the just basic sanity. You know, to be able to just have a basic outdoor spaces to sit down with a few trees. Just, you know, it's so many things.
Yeah, but you agree, because I don't want to be negative, that you agree that this is Lagos, because when you get out of Lagos, I'm talking Nigeria, but we're going to talk about the Francophone country, the neighboring Francophone country, and maybe we can switch in French a little bit before the end of the live. Is because you live in Lagos, and Lagos is really, for me, Lagos is like its own category. Would you agree?
Oh yes, totally. And it's like living in New York. Like you go there because
Exactement.
it's the center of activity. I mean, all the headquarters of any company is here. So yes, obviously you will have a better quality of life if you go to Abeokuta or Osogbo, which are small towns, small
Right.
Yoruba towns that maybe are 3 hours drive from Lagos, but you go there for retirement, you know, or maybe to have as a retreat. But it's a punctual thing. But the truth is, if you want to do things, if you want to connect with some people, you actually need to start from here.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, but I know that there will be a moment where it will be important to leave the big city and start to influence other areas. But then for this, you need to have, I want to say, a strong back to be able to do that.
Absolutely. But I know that, you know, your advantage, my advantage as well, is that we French speakers, you know, even though that you are of Nigerian descent, you were born and raised in France. You know, Benin, République of Benin is right around the corner. Et donc, on peut parler un peu en français. Sorry, guys, but we just probably going to switch in French if you want to, Aramide. There's also opportunity in neighboring countries. What would you like? Is there anything you want to say? Qu'est-ce que tu aimerais faire? Est-ce qu'il y a des choses que tu as envie de faire?
Yes, so but I don't know, we started in English, it's difficult to switch to French now.
But you can keep your French. You can keep the English. Pardon.
Yes, the idea it is to have an interconnected practice, you know, within the continent, even though honestly we know how difficult it is just by road to go to the neighboring countries. It's very difficult. It's sad, but it's very difficult. But the idea it is that we can actually interchange also skills. Because, for example, just for workmanship, there are a lot of workers coming from artisans coming from Cotonou, for example. And, you know, there are a lot of things that could be exchanged. I know also that they have a very good wood policy. They replant woods. You know, there is a real agenda behind forest.
You mean where?
In Cotonou, in Benin.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, which we do not really have here. And so I feel that there are things where collaborative work could happen rather than having to bring goods, for example, from China or from Turkey. You know, I feel that we have skilled neighbors, and it would be nice to take advantage of that. So, you know, we started this with a few projects that we did in Cotonou. Then there was a bit of political instabilities also. It was in between election periods. So things went slow, but it's something that I definitely want to renew. It's something that is very important.
Yeah. So for those who just joined us, this is Aramide. She's an architect. She lives in Lagos, but she was born and raised in France, studied architecture in France, worked in New York for a few years, and made the decision to move to Lagos and to launch her practice. She's very successful. What I mean by successful, she's making a living out of it. And she has a lot of high-end, visible project that she did in Lagos. And one thing that I also want to say again, you made the choice to move back to move to Nigeria when nobody wanted to go there. And that was what, back in 2011, 2012, and you're still there. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Something that I didn't ask you, that what are you working on right now? Because I know that, you're getting a lot of work.
So right now we're working on private residencies, villa, and also more restaurant, because the restaurant we finished actually connected us with other owners who would like to develop restaurants. And the beauty of restaurant, because initially I was kind of reluctant in having to think about another hospitality space. The beauty of it, though, it is that it actually gives you more freedom to experiment things, or at least to put people in contact with notions that would not necessarily fly easily for a private residence. So, and it is actually those things that I had in the back of my mind when I decided to come to Nigeria, with this idea of, okay, we can do it differently, we can do it our way. And like the basic things like introducing courtyards, or or even because of the climate we have, we need screens, and we can't just have a wall and just have small windows like this. It's just in terms of power, in terms of heat. The house, basically, those houses are just unbearable if there is not AC running, which should not be the case. AC is not something that, it's something that just came recently. It's from the petrol years. Before that, we were using natural cross ventilation. So there are things like this that I find interesting to experiment with, and it's easier on a restaurant. A house, it's always more delicate. There is a conflict between the dream of the client and those little items in the agenda that we are trying to push.
But can I ask you something? As your clients, we live in the world, and I know Republic of Benin very well, so do you. The environment is something that is very important. Are the your clients today are aware of it and want to be more sensitive to that? Because you make a very good point. Air conditioner actually is something that is new to us, are they sensitive to using materials that can help save energy? You're laughing, but because I know the answer, but I just want to...
No, not at all, not at all, not at all. But I want to say there are two breeds of clientele. So you have the super wealthy who does not care because he feels that anyways his resources are unlimited and that he will be able to sustain his AC for the next 30 years without any issue. Okay, you have this kind of clientele. And then you have another type of clientele that it is a bit more, that actually wants to connect to what this continent or this country has to offer. I want to say they have this more artistic vision of what the lifestyle should be. And actually, this is now this new trend of clients that are actually more sensitive to those things, about the materials that we're using. Like, can we use earth blocks, for example? Can we use bricks just made out of the earth that we are excavating on the site? There is this other category of client. Unfortunately, all those measures, they are not cheaper. Sadly, they are not cheaper. But it's cheaper in the long run because you will be saving energy to cool your house. You know that after that, you basically just have to open a window to feel comfortable.
And why those materials are not cheaper? Do you know?
It is much more labor intensive to do a brick wall than to do a cement block wall. Actually, anyone can wake up one morning and say, I am a bricklayer and I will do cement block walls and so that's why the walls are not particularly straight, and then you plaster and you plaster and you plaster to hide the defects. With bricks, you need to be skilled. And very few artisans actually know the level of precision that is required to do it.
Yeah.
And once they know, they understand their value in the market. They understand that, yes. And so this is part of the things that will make it a bit more expensive.
And because, so it boils down to a lack of training.
Yes.
It's a lack of training. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Wow. I mean, I feel like we can go on and on.
Yeah, we barely scratched the surface. But
We
it's very
barely
difficult
scratch the
because with all
surface.
the questions you ask, it's like there are different layers of answer possible.
But there's going to be other conversation. I think that it's a great way to start. I think it's very inspiring to see what you've done. You're an architect. You could have, you know, even though you left New York, you went to France, you could have gone anywhere. You chose to go back home because at the end, it's home. And that's the only question I haven't asked you. How do you feel every day? Because this is your ancestor country and you live in your ancestor soil, you're giving back. How does it feel when you know that you have other options?
The truth is, again, it's a choice, but it feels right because I think this is the little connection I was missing. And that I was kind of envying in other people. You know, you are with your friends in France and they will show you things that belong to their grandparents. You know, they are connected to their history. They can show you the places. Oh, this is where, you know, it's related to their intimate history. And I felt, I don't know, I just needed this little connection, this extra connection. And for sure, right now I have it. And now the next step, it is to see how do I build myself in this environment. It's like to move to the next step.
And what's the next level?
But the next level, it is anyway, there is no going back or turning back. You know, I'm here. So
can we say can we say that the next level is expanding?
Yes, it is expanding, and it is to really make it home now, because you know there is always a moment, and it can stress the period that is a kind of transition, that you're not sure, and it is like now there is a kind of official serious commitment, and yes, so now decisions need to be taken in a way that it makes sense for the future, not just randomly. Because really until now, it's as if I was still testing the grounds, trying to understand, because it's not an obvious environment. It's not straightforward. But the truth is, you need to feel it first. Yeah. Not try to understand it, is to feel it first. And
and I want to piggyback on what you just said, that it took you those years to say now it's home. It hasn't been easy. It's been what, 10 years now that you've been in Lagos?
Yes, 10 years.
You know, there's been so many political issues, economical issues, and nobody's backing you. It's only you.
Yes, that's also what made the things difficult, but there is a funny way here where you are alone fighting, but at the same time, you're never alone. There is this weird thing where there is always someone who will come from nowhere and just give you a little hand. I don't know, it can also happen anywhere maybe. But right now, this is the experience I've been having here until now. It's like, yes, there is always...
Well, I think that I relate to what you said. Even though that your family is from Nigeria, you're still an immigrant there. And I think that this mindset of there's always that survival, I would say that survival mindset where issues comes in, you know how to face them. I don't know if this is how you felt, this is how you feel living in Lagos.
Yes, meaning there is no backup. There is no...
So you have to make do.
Yeah, exactly. There is no safety net, you know?
Yeah. I understand. I think that anyone who emigrated in another country, and especially to become an entrepreneur, because it's a different story when you work for a corporation and you get a salary regularly, because whatever you make is from your sweat and blood.
Yes, totally. But do I feel myself like an immigrant? I don't know if this is it, because the thing with immigrant, it's mainly a paper. There is mindset and there is paper. I do not have any paper issue, so that was also puts me in a very comfortable situation. You know, there is no stories of trying to regularize anything. Like a few people I know, you know, but yeah, there are sometimes there are little shifts, but I think it's just mindsets.
No, I'm
There
thinking
are
more about
gaps.
mindset. I think
Yeah, there
paper
are gaps in
just,
mindsets, but
yeah.
yes,
I think it's a
yes.
mindset. You left comfort, France, New
Yeah,
York,
yeah,
to
yeah,
Lagos.
sure.
If you don't have that mindset, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you can't survive Lagos.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, I'm so happy that you came. There's always three questions that I ask
Okay, tell
to
me.
my guests. I hope you didn't prepare them. What is,
No.
what is your favorite quote? Ta citation préférée?
My favorite quote. Attends, there is one. It is, I didn't come to die, or I didn't, you know, there is this one that we say,
But it doesn't
like,
need to be precise. What does it mean? What is it meaningful? Why is it meaningful to you?
the thing it is that, okay, you do an effort, but the point is not to kill yourself at this effort, you know. It's like, okay, leave yourself a bit of energy for the next struggle. Like, yeah.
Okay. And what would you tell your younger self? Basically, what do you know now you didn't know when you were 12 or 15 years old?
Mm, I think I would have, I traveled, but there is, I think the little thing I am missing is more handy stuff, you know? Yeah, I like to work with my hands, and this is something I am missing. So I think I would do it more.
If you were
If I,
younger,
yeah,
you
if I
would have
was
done
to
it more.
redo it again, yes, because right now it's difficult. It's difficult to do it in this environment. But when you actually in New York, like, for example, I was doing all my furniture. It's something very easy to do. It's easy to get the, but I don't know, here it just looks a bit more. The effort is higher to be able to get to the point. But yeah, I think using more my hands.
But
I
this is
think it's
something that you
something.
will have done when you were younger, because the question is, what would you tell your younger self?
Because it helps, it forms your brain. It forms,
Oh,
it's
okay.
another form of, it's another contact with plasticity.
Okay. I learned
Yes.
something. Okay.
Yeah.
And last
Yeah.
question, what is your favorite restaurant in Lagos? And remind the audience, because it was a big project, the restaurant that you just finished in Lagos.
My
The-
favorite restaurant in Lagos right now, um, depends for what.
you have to pick one, so it doesn't matter.
I
Just
have
pick
to pick
one.
one. Uh, Let me say Casa Lydia. If
Casalidia.
it's just for the food. It's in Ikoyi. It's really, the place is very unassuming, but the food is amazing.
Okay, what kind of food? Is it local?
It's a local with a little touch.
Okay,
Yes,
Casalidia
yes, yes.
in
Yes, in
Ikoyi.
Ikoyi. Yes,
Okay, so
yes.
when I'm in Lagos in January,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
will,
we go there. You will
you'll
see,
take
you
me
will like it.
there.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah, you will see, you will like it.
Anyway, Francoise Aramide Akinosho, the founder of FAA Design Studio. She's based in Lagos. She's amazing. Thank you so much for
But
joining
thank you.
Breaking New Ground Show. It's also your first live. I wish you
Yeah.
many success. And
Thank you very much.
I'm sure we're going to hear from you very soon, because I know you're doing big things. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you,
The live's going to
Yasmina.
be available on my page, so follow me, Yasmina F. Edwards. It will also be available on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. You can also follow FFA Studio. I think that's, no, FFA Design on Instagram.
FAA Designs, yes.
FFA Design. And say hi to my ancestors and my family in Nigeria. Bye.
They received it. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, Yasmina.